So Nintendo Switch Online and now Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack is something we've talked about quite a bit on the channel in 2022 and 2021, as it is Nintendo's ongoing service that does receive frequent updates, albeit not necessarily tied to a committed update roadmap schedule like I think a lot of Switch fans would like to see from the big N. But in today's video, I want to dive into the discussion around the Game Boy family of systems making their way to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, or potentially even some of those systems falling into the base tier, and revisit and break down the leak that actually confirms that Nintendo is indeed working on these things, and have that final discussion on when, if at all, in 2023, we should expect the Game Boy family of systems to make it to NSO in the future. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing Nintendo Switch Online and the likelihood and some evidence that points to when we may see these emulators make their way officially onto Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. And to first kick off this conversation, you do have to entertain the possibility that while it's very likely that we will see all three of these systems brought over at the same time, that they could also do something as crazy as breaking them up with something like Game Boy and Game Boy Color coming over individually, and then Game Boy Advance being added in later. And Nintendo could make a surprise decision to add in the Game Boy and Game Boy Color systems to the base model tier, because so far we have really seen Nintendo fall off with updated support around NES and SNES games. We get a batch of them every now and then, normally 3 titles, 2 from the NES, 1 from the SNES, or a mix of the two. It goes back and forth, but they've really fallen off in terms of quality and consistency. And do you need to offer something more to those base tier subscribers to maintain their annual subscription price of $20 a year? Or if you're doing it monthly, it ends up being even more than that. And is things like online play and cloud save data really enough value for what they're charging? I think you can definitely make a case that Nintendo should add in additional content to that base tier. But I definitely do believe that Nintendo, when they reveal these things, will most likely throw every system into the expansion pack, as that is their big price point that they want to charge as many consumers as possible, being $50 annually. And one hope that I have in 2023 is maybe we finally get the monthly tier options for something like NSO Plus expansion pack, because currently you can only sign up for an entire year. And I definitely feel like as a consumer, when we don't have a clear-cut update roadmap schedule around how frequently to expect the updates to come from Nintendo, that it is a problem when you are signing up for an entire year and trusting that they will continue to add something like 1 new N64 game per month, or at least 3 to 5 Genesis games every few months or every other month. Like, we literally don't know what to expect other than just trying to look at history on how Nintendo has done it so far. Now, to quickly get on the same page with first how we know that Game Boy family of systems are at least being worked on. It's not a confirmation they will come to the Switch, but Nintendo is actually for sure doing testing, because you may have forgotten now, as it's been quite a while. Back in April of 2021, we saw a leaked emulation build that's traceable to NERD, the Nintendo of Europe Research and Development Department, that absolutely reveals that Nintendo is toying around with bringing these things over. As you can see the following tweets from Trash Bandicoot, where it says, "So Nintendo's official Game Boy Advance emulator for the Nintendo Switch just leaked. Now it's just a matter of waiting for NSO to add GBA." He then follows it up saying, "And here are some screenshots of it actually working if anyone is curious." He then goes on to mention called Sloop, and the 7Z archive is called Hyoko, which is a Game Boy emulator with all the Game Boy games being separate applications. These emulators are developed by NERD, Nintendo Europe Research and Development, and are both functional, albeit with a few bugs. So I don't really think you need more confirmation than that to know that Nintendo will plan to eventually bring these things over. And honestly, before we got the Nintendo 64 added into the expansion pack, there was a lot of questions from Nintendo fans, maybe not expecting Nintendo to go that far with the service, and that we could only expect things like the more 2D side-scroller era of gaming to ever be thrown into NSO. And I think the fact that we got N64 games before the Game Boy family of systems just makes the case that much stronger that logically, from a business standpoint, Nintendo will want to continue to grow its subscribers to this paid service known as NSO by adding in things like new consoles and building out essentially their quote-unquote Disney Plus library of all of their first-party and even some third-party games that you remember playing through from your childhood, and kind of selling it to you all in one package with things like the DLC packs included in the expansion pack. They are trying to do enough different stuff with this service to justify that still controversial to this day asking price. And I personally only believe it's controversial because of how few and far between Nintendo drip feeds the content out to us, as we are now looking at a potential scenario for 2023 to ditch the 1 per month N64 game, as at the time of filming this video it's December 26th and we don't have a December game for N64. They 100% skipped the month of September when they gave us the updated games roadmap, and there was some suspicious wording saying that the new titles that would be coming out would be added in gradually as time goes on, and we very well could see Nintendo shift to more of the sporadic update schedule like we see with the Genesis and like we occasionally see with NES and SNES when it comes to new N64 games. And that is a big point of contention for many, and I do think that we could be in a scenario where the service feels very dry and slow for quite a bit of time in 2023. And if I'm a betting man and putting my money on when Nintendo will actually reveal the Game Boy family of systems and how they will do it, I personally believe, and I've been stating this for a long time on the channel, that the logical event for them to reveal this new edition, a new family of systems, is at the September Nintendo Direct. Just again, you can't ever tell anything for sure with Nintendo, but if you do look at their trend in history with the SNES back in 2019, that was the first additional console that was added in from the base NES service back in 2018 when it originally launched, and we got that reveal then. 2020 went by, and of course that was the height of the pandemic, and it was a strange year for game announcements all around, but we didn't see any kind of NSO updates in any way, shape, or form that year. Then you fast forward to September 2021, and that is the official announcement of Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack with the commitment to add N64 and Sega Genesis games to the service going forward. 2022, as previously mentioned, was just a games roadmap update for the N64 at that September event, kind of leading the speculation to kick the can down the road to 2023. Could they do it in something like a February Direct or a E3 summertime Direct that we are hoping to see come back this upcoming year? Absolutely, but I do believe that Nintendo treats the September Direct as something of a NSO portion will be there every single time, and I do believe that that is the most likely scenario for us to get that updated family of systems added in. And I think they do it with slowing down the new N64 game editions, and it kind of makes gamers wonder, should I even renew this service going forward? And just whenever the subscription time is ready to renew in October for a lot of people that signed up for the expansion pack originally, Nintendo very well may have that big show closer moment for the September Direct where, hey, all of your favorite Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color games are now going to be live on the service, and we will be updating them sporadically throughout. We'll get games like Minish Cap, Metroid Fusion, Advance Wars, probably even throw on all of the Mario and Donkey Kong Land games from the original Game Boy era of games. They'll give us enough of the big heavy hitters to justify trying to sell the service, and then they'll probably fall into that same once per month or very consistent update roadmap schedule at the start and slowly taper it off once again until we all start wondering when, if at all, will Nintendo ever add in the GameCube library of their classic games to the service. And I definitely think that this is a long-term revenue driver for Nintendo that they see as something like a 10-year project that will ultimately most likely bleed into whatever is next when it comes to new Nintendo Switch hardware, as they've stated in numerous investors meetings that their Nintendo account system is a future-proof thing that they can roll forward, and that's a big deal for them because they've essentially started from scratch in previous generations. So I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your thoughts and opinions and speculation on when we will see Nintendo officially pull back the curtain on the Game Boy family of systems. What games do you want to see make it over with those systems the most? Are you like me and you think that the September Direct in 2023 is the most likely venue, or do you think Nintendo throws a curveball and it's here as soon as February, or maybe even the E3 time Direct? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen watching right now. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.